Well, good morning. We're out here on a lake. It's right on the edge of Maine and New Hampshire, so part of the lake is in Maine, part of the lake is in New Hampshire. Kind of a fun lake to fish. It's almost like two different bodies of water. One's shallow, a little bit deeper, very clear. The other one's very, no, actually, I just contradicted myself there, didn't I? One's very shallow, a little stained, and the other one's very deep and clear. So we get to kind of try two different tactics. We just pulled up here on a point, and it's a real small pinch point, and it's a good spot to sometimes catch the bass as they're going in. This would be very much pre-spawn. It's cold this morning. It was 35 degrees. We had some snow, so I'm bundled up a little bit. It's pretty chilly. We'll see if we can catch some fish. Not quite sure what the water temperature is. We'll check that in just a minute, and we'll go from there. Keep you updated. All right, we just hooked into a fish. He missed it the first time on a jerk bait, and just slowed it down and kept working it, and he came back and got it. We can get him in the boat. All right, first fish of the morning. The water temperature is 47.7 degrees, so pretty chilly. But obviously these fish are still biting. Nice little fish. We're fishing quite a few jerk baits this morning. In the spring it's hard to put one of these down, but just a suspending jerk bait. If I'm not mistaken, that's the Flash Pointer 100, but I'd have to double check for you. See if we can catch a couple more. This is probably a good time to talk about working a jerk bait. A suspending jerk bait, the key is that you always work it on a slack line. So what I mean by that is you start with a slack line, pop the rod towards you, and you point it right back to the bait. So you pop the rod, point it back to the bait. And just a series of quick jerks and pointing it back to the bait, and you reel in between. You never want to start, we're moving just a little bit, you never want to start with a tight line or finish with a tight line. You always want slack in the line. So I'm working it and pointing it back to the bait every time. And you can work it with, mix up your cadence just a little bit. So I like to work a couple of jerks, leave it sit for a little bit, maybe just one jerk, maybe three, and just rotate through that. Try to find out what the fish want. Some days they want a different series, a different cadence than another day, but you just work with it and try to figure it out. And you want to let that bait sit totally still. That's important. That seems to be often when the bass will hit it, is in that pause. The colder the water, the longer you let it sit. The warmer the water, the more I'm just going to work it, let it sit very shortly, work it, and just keep it moving if it's really warm water. If the colder the water, I'm just gonna let it sit a fair amount. All right, we've moved locations. We've struggled a little bit. We caught one other bass that didn't get caught on film, on a jerk bait as well. The different one, it was the Re-Range, Jackall Re-Range. And this is a, oh my gosh, what is it? It's the, drawing a blank. It's the Vision 110 plus 1. And we're out here, and it's a pretty steep point. Small little fish, but nice to get into them a little bit. And we're gonna keep going and see if we can get a few more. Sometimes they get in a tight little wad, a little school of them in the pre-spawn here, moving in, and they'll stage up all in the same places. So if you catch one, keep fishing, and often you can catch a few more. Not all the time, but often they were there for a reason. So we're gonna keep fishing here and see if we can pick up another one here.
The neural pathway is one that leads you to do it again and again. And even though one direction, each one determining more or less the course of your life. The progression is ignorant, no technology patterns in your life, don't accept the idea that your ability to do life is different and compels you to behave in certain ways. You'll have to factors into plastic.
All right, here we go. Another one. We've come around the to the back side of the point. Oh boy. Come around the back side of the point, just the other side, and we got another one. We couldn't get any more on that one side. I thought we were going to get a couple more, but just a baby. But again, hopefully we're going to find a bunch of them eventually. I don't know. We haven't done it yet. But hopefully we'll figure it out eventually and get on a bunch of them here. That one hit it really hard. It was actually just sitting there. I left it quite a while on the pause, and he hit it and just ran with it. My line just went away. He set the hook on himself, so. And maybe it would be even helpful just to talk about a little bit where we're fishing. Like I said, it's a long point. It's a main lake point that comes way out into the basically the main channel. It's kind of a long, skinny part of the lake that goes down this way and enters back up and kind of creates a T into the rest of the lake. But then this point sticks way out into that channel and goes all the way. It hits an island and goes all the way back into a huge spawning bay on this side, and then on that side it goes back into kind of a spawning bay. So I'm suspecting that fish are coming from the channel, moving up on both sides of this point and working their way back into the spawning pocket. So that's why I'm hitting that right now. And obviously we found a couple fish, but not the mother load yet. This one, where this point it was a super steep break, but then it kind of made a flat section. You can't see it, but it comes right out here and then goes into deeper water. So I'm fishing kind of the edge. We're in 17 feet of water, and that's kind of the break edge, and then it flattens up into like maybe 12 and 10 feet of water up there.
Left the fence for himself with the camera. And so I'd never been alone before. His family had his whole life, whatever it was. Now it was as if the boundary dropped down. He had no one to turn to for help anyway. He blamed his father for his miserable fate, for being trapped in the camera. One day he felt angry and the next day depressed. But soon it became clear that he had no time for protection. He had no money or resources, and yet somehow he had to survive. So he hired himself out as a tutor to as many families as possible. When they went on vacation, he were out for days. His one jacket was threadbare. He had no belongings for the heavy rains. He felt ashamed going into people's houses, shivering in his rollback. But at least he was now able to support himself. He had decided.
All right, we got one more. It's again, it's a point. This would be considered a secondary point. It doesn't reach right out to the main lake, but it's a secondary point going back into the spawning bay right out here. And we caught a pickerel off of it, but not what we're looking for. And then we just caught a bass. I missed one fish, and so there seems to be a couple fish here. I don't know if we'll get a whole school going or not, but there are at least a couple fish on this secondary point, and we'll see if we can make the best of it here. All right, quick update. We found a few. We went back in a point back to a spawning bay, just looking for spots that bass would stop along the way. And we found a couple trees and instantly got a bite. I missed it. It came right at me, and I swung and I missed, and kept going down the bank. There was another tree real close by. We caught, let's see, probably 6-7 fish off of it. Sorry guys, I was on the phone with my business partner, and I wasn't filming at that time. But caught quite a few fish out of the tree. I went, from one side of the tree, caught a few, went around the other side of it. Sometimes if you swap directions, and that happened twice in this little area, the fish will see the bait coming from another direction, and once they've stopped biting, they'll bite it from a different direction. So I went around the other side of the tree, dragged it out of the tree that way, caught a couple more fish, and then kept going down the point, and we caught smallmouth and largemouth on this point. And a pretty good largemouth that had a yellow perch stuck down its throat. It was going to be fine, but it was, the tail was sticking out. And then we went right on the point that we caught probably maybe 6 fish, and then went all the way again, swapping directions. I went around and I actually swapped baits, and I swapped baits a couple times, and then I caught the largest smallmouth I've caught today, not a giant, but maybe 2.5 pounds, from swapping directions and swapping baits. And that happens quite a lot. It's not something that happens all the time, but it happens enough that it's well worth taking a little bit of time, swap directions, swap baits. The same thing happens to bass on a bed if you're fishing, if you're allowed to, and you fish for a bass on beds as they spawn. We're not there yet here in Maine, but sometimes if you miss a fish, you can go around, swap a different direction, and bring the bait another direction, and they'll go after it from that side, and you'll sometimes catch that fish. But it happens quite a bit. So it's something to pay attention to in swapping baits, giving something just a little different. It can even, like the fish that I caught, it was still on a jerkbait, just a different jerkbait. It was from the re-range, the Jackall re-range is what I was catching them on one side on, and then I went to the other side and I caught it on a Vision 110. So it sometimes it's not even a radical change, it's just a little change, and it makes all the difference. So we're gonna actually pack up and go to the shallow side of the lake. There's some areas I want to try. Since we caught some fish out of trees, there are some sort of brushy piles that I kind of want to try flipping those. I love catching fish by flipping a creature bait or a jig, and just thought it might be something to try. If not, we'll probably look for more of what we've been finding them on. Sorry I wasn't filming, guys, but again, I was on the phone and just wasn't the time to be filming. But we'll see if we can catch some more fish and get it on video. All right, so not a giant, but first flipping fish in this new spot. Hopefully that's a good sign. It was just a couple flips in. Hopefully we'll get a few more. Show you what I'm using here. So this is a Sweet Beaver. It's I think it's a 3/8 ounce tungsten weight. I put 2 bobber stops on it, if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that well enough, but 2 bobber stops. I prefer 2. It just doesn't move quite as much, especially if I'm trying to skip it across the water. You want to keep it all tight together. I'd probably bring it down to about like that, so it has a little wiggle room. And then I've put it on a snell knot, and we can do a video on the knot, but it causes it comes through the eye of the hook. So when you set the hook and let's say the weight's in the fish's mouth, it immediately pops that hook right up, and it's a straight shank hook, and it just drives right up into the roof of the mouth where you want to get it, where it doesn't do a lot of damage to the fish, and you can put them back in good condition. And you didn't, if you didn't have it on a snell knot, you'd set the hook and it would pop the fish's mouth open, but the hook wouldn't drive up, so it would just come flying right out of their mouth, or at least a chance for that. So I prefer this type of flipping setup. So we'll see if we can catch a couple. All right, we got another fish flipping. We've gotten a few bites. I missed a couple. I'm not quite sure how I didn't put them in the boat, but it's still nice to catch a couple more. I keep trying to catch one on camera for you guys, but man, it just hasn't happened. A little re-rig here. We seem to be going so long in between bites, it's a little hard to predict it. But here, I'll take a moment and show you what I'm doing for rigging this. The hook is nice and sharp. I just sharpened it just a second ago just to make sure. When I miss that fish, that's usually what I check first, to make sure that hook is nice and sharp. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to go in about 1/4 of an inch you know, into the bait with the nose. Just a straight shank flipping hook. I think it's gosh, what is it? It's a TK130. Now I'm trying to think of the brand. I know the model, but not the brand. But Trokar, that's what it is. Trokar TK130 flipping hook, and I really prefer them. And obviously I pull the legs apart. It's just a sweet beaver creature bait. In cold water, I prefer something with very minimal action. As the water warms up, I prefer something with some action. Everyone has their opinion on it, but I prefer something with some action. But in cold water, this is what I prefer. Goodness. I had him for a second, missed him. This is a little shorter rod than I usually like to use, and I like it because I can make a roll cast really well, but I think that's part of my problem is I'm not getting a real good hook set, and I like braid, but the water is very clear, so I've gone with fluorocarbon, and it has just enough stretch that I don't seem to be getting as much of a hook penetration as I'd like to with these fish. So I think I either got to go to a longer rod or go to braid or something for this setup, but it's kind of annoying. I don't think that was a fish. I think that was just me hoping it was a fish. I don't think it was. Same fish or just there's a whole bunch of them sitting right there, but either way I'll take it. All right, little guy. Okay. Yeah, the wind makes it a little bit tricky. It's blowing a little bit here, but at a time like this I'm awful grateful for power. There's definitely more than one fish right there. Okay. Again, always pays to make multiple casts to the same spot. In my early years of fishing, I caught a fish somewhere and I said, well, that's it, you know? And the bigger the fish, the more I thought, that's it, there's no more. But over and over and over again, I find that if I make repeated casts to the same spot and sometimes switch angles, there are often more fish, especially this time of year when they tend to group up. They're moving up together and they group up. I swimming away with it, which that's something worthy of mentioning. Just a baby, but fish. But that brings me that right there brings me to a valuable point. The first fish I caught on this tree, I went all the way up close to the shore, and it started swimming away. Which, when a fish picks up a bait and starts swimming away immediately, typically that's a good sign that there's more fish in that same location. And it's simple. I mean, if you had something you really liked and people were after you to, you're all fighting over the same thing, you'd try your very best to keep it away. I mean, you look at our sports teams, we play hockey or football, and everyone's chasing the guy with the puck or the ball, and so you're doing everything you can to keep it away from them. And same with a fish. Well, the only way they can do that is put it in their mouth and swim away with it, and so that typically happens when there's more than one fish. So we saw that fish again swam away with it. He picked up the line, and the line starts going out to deeper water. Again, a good sign that there's more fish there. It doesn't mean we're going to catch them, but more than likely there's more of them. So we're going to keep making some more casts to it, and then probably even switch sides and make some more casts. Repeated casts in there, maybe change up the angle just a little bit, and another one. Tell you what, this I just recently upgraded the boat, and the boat came with power poles, and what a salvation that is. Especially in the springtime, or if you like fishing in shallow cover, power poles are absolutely amazing. Or talons, either one, I guess. But this one has power poles, and what a difference those make, especially when you get a little bit of wind or you're trying to fish specific spots, and you don't want to move, you don't want to make a lot of extra noise with the trolling motor, you want to stay as quiet as possible, and boy, those power poles allow you to do that in a big way, and they're worth every penny, even though they feel awful expensive. But I think they're worth it. And having two, I'll see some guys with just one, and it would probably be helpful, but it makes it quite difficult, because if the wind's going to blow you, it's going to whip you right around. And if you have two, it anchors you completely, so you can stay in the exact spot you want to be, which I find to be just a huge benefit. Like in this situation, the nose of the boat would go right into the tree if I only had one power pole, but instead having two, it keeps me right where I want to be. And again, just reassessing that fish catch, that fish again was swimming out from the tree with it, so more than likely, missed him. How he got away from me, but more than likely there's another one, and sure enough there is. He wrapped me up in something. I got three. Now that one, we damaged the hook point just a little bit. I like checking the hook point, and it's just bent over just a little bit, so we're just going to clean that up. It's a brand new hook, but it's still now that last hook set messed that hook point up just enough. I wouldn't want to try to catch a fish like that. That would greatly reduce our abilities to catch them. There we go. back in business now. Another one on the back side of the tree. Just keep working your way around. Again, right in the roof of the mouth, right where they're supposed to be. There we go. Oh, how does that fish come off? That's amazing. One smart fish. He was swimming away with it too. Amazing. How did he pull that off? Wow, that never hit the bottom. He just took it. Looks like a little better fish. A little better fish. All right, that's what we're looking for. Now we're talking. That just never hit the bottom. Oh, it's nice to get to share that with you guys. Oh boy, that's really in there. He wasn't coming off. Whew. He was not coming off. Here, let me show you. Let me show you. Look at that. I mean, right in the roof of the mouth. Look at that. Absolutely buried in there. All right. All right, good looking fish. Look at that fat belly too. Pre-spawn, healthy fish. Look at that belly. Good enough. We'll let this one go. There we go. See if we can catch another one. Oh, that's better. Wow, looking at the time, it's almost time for me to pack it up. I hate to, but when you make a promise that you're going to be home at a certain time, you better deliver.